Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining in. I must say it's a different experience and indeed a hard one not to meet you all in person. But thanks to the technology that we have gathered here virtually as a community, we have had wonderful sessions throughout the day. It was great to hear from various industry experts on plethora of topics and also especially their point of views on recent developed disruptions due to coronavirus. And not to say, and I must say, I think the insightful panel discussion which we recently concluded. Speaking about applications of AI, so due to the pandemic and lockdown restrictions, we have been mandated to work from home and our household chores and work have been mismatched. Thus, it has created an opportunity for AI enthusiasts to solve household related problems as well. For instance, I just saw an app which helps a user, or which helps a household person to it'll raise a trigger as soon as the boiling milk reaches at the lid. I can imagine myself, standing in front of stove and staring away and staring and looking at the boiling milk, and it never comes to the lid. And as soon as I sway away from it, disaster happens. So thanks to those problem solvers. Interestingly, I think there should also be a solution which talks about how we can predict number of utensils we have to wash next time, because as soon as I yeah, because as soon as I enter the kitchen and see the sink, these utensils grow exponentially, and I don't know from where they grow, but every time the story is same. However, our discussion today is strictly based on business applications of AI, how Diocentric has solved and through their transformative solutions using advanced analytics have helped our clients to deliver value in terms of incremental savings, cost reduction, efficient processes, and enhancing customer experience. But before I do that, let me introduce myself. I am Gaurav Kamboj. I have around 8 years of experience in driving and leading various advanced analytical programs across business functions such as customer strategy, marketing, supply chain, and finance. I have exposure to manufacturing, CPG, retail, and automotive sector. With me, I have my co-presenter Vidit. I will hand it over to him for a very quick introduction. Over to you, Vidit.
Hi Gaurav, good afternoon everyone. This is Vidit. I have been working with Dowcentric for the past 2 years now, and I have worked specifically in supply chain as well as now working in e-com space. And I have also worked with an analytics team on some of the solutions that we will be covering today.
That was indeed a very rapid and crisp introduction with it. Moving on, AI is notoriously very hard to define, and in fact, it lacks agreed universal definition. John Fremont, entrepreneur and AI thought leader, which is well known across the world, I think succinctly puts, there is no one thing that defines AI. In fact, it is amalgamation of various new age technologies, emerging technologies, new age methods, machine learning, and new various tools and tackles when they are knit together to create a viable solution for the clients. With that, let me set the tone for rest of our session. First, I will give a glimpse and overview of analytics at Dowcentric, what all business problems which we have solved so far, and also the talent on board which have made these solutions happen. Uh, World has been struck by pandemic, and it has been aptly coined as a black swan event. Businesses are grappling through these tough times. So I will talk about six core business areas where using AI ML, which can act as a playbook for winning strategies and can help businesses to navigate through this crisis and further strengthen their positions in longer term. Next, manufacturing has evolved into 4.0. Plants are getting digitized day by day. IoT enablement is at its peak. Hence, there is seamless exchange of data integration. Strong data foundations have been laid in plants. Hence, many AI applications are being widespread used in manufacturing domain. With it, we'll talk about some of our successful use cases where we have deployed end-to-end solutions that are driving benefit to our clients. Uh, Now we there are no guesses what this engine would be. Is our attempt to mimic or to understand the impact of pandemic. So after March, we start getting the questions from clients that, being in the crisis mode, how would I adjust our forecasts? How would I adjust our business planning? So this germinated from those problems. So this engine generates customized indices for a particular geography, and which helps business in enable decision making and also streamlining their business projections in short term. Lastly, AI is a buzzword, and it's been overwhelming as we hear AI or some sync in abbreviations to AI on a day-to-day basis. But let me show you, although AI is enabling some impacts, it is creating impact, but there are tons of misconceptions for a layman else who is sitting on the guardrails and looking as a AI technology which is growing day by day, and also for business solutionists or business users who are leveraging AI for solutioning. There are also some misconceptions. So I would debunk and bust those myths while during our conversation. Lastly, we'll have a question and answers. I would request the viewers or the attendees to post their questions along the presentation. Vidit and I will gladly take them at the end. With that, I have set up the agenda, and next I'll be showcasing a short video on how we have solved problems for a product across its value chain, right from sourcing the raw material to the end product when it reaches to the customer. Please take a look. Yep. So that was a short, although not too long, I would say, but it showcased our potential in solving business problems throughout, right from inception, right from procuring raw materials till the end it reaches to the end consumer. Moving on. So, as Archie also mentioned in his opening session today, that our analytics journey came into being couple of years ago. Indeed, it's a short period of time, but we started our journey in solving supply chain analytics problems in the areas of production planning, demand estimation, and logistics. But over the period of last couple of years, we have grown rapidly and aggressively, and have now our footprints in solving business problems across all functions, such as may it be reliability engineering, may it be related to e-commerce, digital analytics, sales, or marketing. But I think this would not have been successful without the trust that clients have put on us, and our client base has been growing strongly since then. We have clients from large corporations to startups, and indeed they are very big brand names, and it pans across the breadth of industries. So all these problems which I just mentioned have been unboxed through our transformative solutions by bringing all the capabilities together, may it be robotic process automation, may it be Internet of Things enablement or machine learning, where we are helping our clients to thrive in this digital age. It is well researched and documented that companies, organizations that are adopting AI ML, and especially at scale, are unlocking the growth potential to the tune of 10%. In fact, to to have a maximum potential, analytics roadmap for long-term strategy is quintessential. We at Downcentric collaborate with our clients to co-create value together. All those solutioning, all those emerging capabilities, technologies which I talked about would not have been possible without the support, without the abundance of talent that we have on board. Right from business consultants that works two in a box with clients, understand their business problems, uses their historical or previous experience, brainstorm with cross practices. So we have other practices which are expert in business domains, and then discussing with AI ML thought leaders, data science practitioners to transform that business problem into analytics, and then coming up with new age solutions. And those solutions are being packaged by our UI and visualization experts, which weave a story in such a way that it is consumed by our business users. And all these things from start till the end is been can be hosted on cloud as well as on-prem, where our cloud architects and cloud engineers are experts in GCP, Azure, and AWS platforms. So, having talked briefly about our journey, I'll move on to the next session. I think it's a no-brainer, and we are going through these hard, tough times. Indeed, every living or non-living entity with whom we are connected with is impacted in some way or the other. Uh, in fact, it has led to severe business disruptions. Who would have thought that decimal size micron of a living organism can cripple and stall economic activity globally? I think it's apt to say at this point there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decade happens. So various businesses are grappling through this situation and hence perished. However, there are companies which have pivoted out from this situation. Companies that are ahead in digital maturity, that are using new age solutions, have pivoted through their way and are in much better situation to tackle short-term fluctuations and also further strengthen their positions in longer term. So here I propose 6 critical business use cases, I must say, using advanced analytics with our proven solutions that businesses should use not just to sustain, but to grow. First is our flagship product, demand sensing platform. We know that during this pandemic, demand has been volatile, and demand is nothing but amalgamation of wants, needs, and desires of consumers. And with ever-changing consumer behavior, and especially it has been talked throughout various sessions as well, it's very difficult to forecast or project the future trajectory. Hence, it's imperative to get hold of this volatile demand by using demand sensing, by using potential other drivers, using our environmental factors all together with historical data to have a good projection, to have a better projection in near term. On the other hand, we have on the other side of fulcrum, there is production. So with the lockdown restrictions in play, product mix being changing, and diminishing capacity, and plants are running intermittently, it is more constraints have been added in production. So hence it is difficult for planners to come up with a plan optimally that fulfills the cater demand in the market. Hence our planner bot, which is an AI driven bot, helps planners to come up with a optimized production plan within minutes and with complete adherence to all the constraints. So marketing assessments or marketing channels which were used before, or the spends which or investments which were being made by marketing heads bound to change, and there is a complete knee jerk reaction from consumers why they are moving from traditional channels to digital adoption. Much more has to be done or to be done due to this forced causes, but we believe that assessing individual impact of media channels is critical, and going through this knee jerk reaction rather than deploying everything in digital would also be not be sane in longer term. Hence we propose a market mix modeling which not only isolates the impact of various media spends, but also recommends an optimized spend considering not only media drivers but also environmental factors, and in accordance with the current short-term situation, so as to give a clear point of view of the ROI which can be obtained by investing in various channels. So next is the price elasticity. So normal price sensitivity. So price elasticity is nothing but a unit increase in price would lead to definitely some degree of reduction in volumes. So normal price sensitivities or normal microeconomic equations will not hold here because of the environmental factors, because of the COVID situation. Hence, again, we have to isolate the true impact of pricing and need to reevaluate our pricing strategy. Similarly is the case with the trade promotions. The entire trade promotion has gone haywire. So there are essential items which have gone through the roof. The sales have gone through the roof, and on the other hand, there are discretionary items which they have a very lull demand. So hence it is imperative to reassess the trade promotion strategy, not only to incentivize the trade for a longer term, but also to maintain the bottom lines. So this delivery logistics is one of the key supply chain pillar which has seen the utmost disruption during pandemic. There is an entire paradigm shift in the last couple of months. Who would have believed that strategic alliances which are going through for companies who are vouching for last mile deliveries would have taken place in a normal scenario. For example, Big Basket being having a strategic alliance with Uber, and there are certain numeral cases. Our fleet management solution will help not only in order allocation but also for route planning, so as to optimize the cost, especially in the times when freight wages are also fluctuating with the availability of trucks. Finally, finance is a key aspect of organization. Indeed, it's a heart of organization, and it's a fuel through which companies run through. And so forecasting or projecting cash flows in near term, it's quintessential. Even more so for raw material procurers in CPG or FMCG companies, to say they bulk buy millions of rupees of commodities. So hence we have developed a commodity price forecasting tool which helps them to have a guidance on future prices, also to play their role in spot prices. Thus having an inkling of what could be the movement of future prices or spot prices will give them a financial advantage, and they can hedge their bets against the price fluctuations that would might happen in near future. These are the 6 critical cases which I talked about, and which should we believe that companies should possess those in order to maintain and in order to navigate through this crisis. However, now I will get a bit more detail into one each of in every case. So demand sensing platform. I still recall my discussion with one of our clients, I think few months ago, where a client quoted that a few uplift or few percentage increase in demand accuracy save millions of dollars for the company. On the similar lines, we have introducing our demand sensing platform. So it's our flagship product, and it has been developed through thorough research, through working on various proof of concepts, through our proven solutions over the past couple of years. It The data, with underlying data, it understands the demand patterns based on the volatility and average demand interval, and further uses various potential drivers such as POS data, weather data, various endogenous and exogenous factors you might have seen in the video. They are clubbed together, and further extensive feature engineering is done to feed these features into machine learning algorithms, which are mainly of forest bagging based, boosting, or new age recurrent neural network frameworks. We have a very robust validation process and dynamic modeling, which helps us to maintain the accuracy, and our results are much more accurate than traditional methods. So this entire platform is being hosted on cloud. So hence, with our stronger pipelines and cloud based platform, it is scalable and customizable as per the client requirements. Over the period of time, we have seen drastic improvements in accuracies, and especially in one case, we saw a rapid or an whooping increase of 15 to 20% in accuracy, thus increasing the service levels of various SKUs and also optimizing the inventory levels. So next is a planner bot. So this germinated from the fact that it's very difficult, or I would say it's impossible for planners to understand all the constraints, especially in this disruptive environment, and more so when more product mix, more SKUs are being manufactured in plants. So hence, so we devised a mechanism in understanding the production plan and overlaid a heuristic or optimization engine, which takes consider all the required constraints which a planner in a real world scenario would play. So it definitely mimics the planner behavior, may it be minimum order quantity required, or what all products would a plant wants to manufacture, or what would be the sequence of the products, or what chain or what assembly line is working. It just throws a production plan within a minutes in front of a planner. And guess what, it also has a functionality to override that. Once that plan is been given, it can further vouch through or goes through various planning hierarchy, so as to management can override some of the changes and can rerun it, and we'll get eventually a prepared AI based production plan within minutes. It has been implemented in couple of geographies for a very large FMCG or CPG client, and we have been 100% adhered. This tool has been 100% adhered to the production constraints, and it has reduced manual effort, thus giving more time for planners to work on strategic initiatives. So number one, or I would say one of the key question which chief marketing officers or the ones who are handling media spends is, where should I invest my dollars or rupees per se in various channels so as to maximize my revenue. So hence market mix modeling comes into the play. We understand, we analyze various media drivers used by a company or used by a brand. We isolate them. We understand their diminishing returns on the sales, or your target variable can be a lead or sales or revenue or volume. Understanding those individually, analyzing the diminishing returns from them, and overlaying an decay factor. For example, a TV ad which we watch today might have it is in top of my mind today, but it will have a decay impact as I go along sequentially. So probably by a couple of weeks I would lose interest, or it would not be in top of my mind. So those kind of lag behaviors or decay behaviors we understand for all the channels, and then we put them into an econometric models to understand each and every each interactions as well as individual effects of those media drivers. Over that, we overlay a optimization engine, Based on various constraints, we propose a spend optimizer, as you can see here. So it tells what are your current spends by various media channels and what is the expected ROI if you do that. And this is the recommended spend which our tool suggests based on exhaustive machine learning exercise. And this is the result or expected ROI if you implement that. So I think it's very amazing and it's very helpful for the marketing business per se to go ahead. And especially we also use we delineate media drivers from environmental factors, from seasonality, and also from brand equity, because there are brands which drive sales on its own. So it's important to extract those drivers as well. So price elasticity engine. So there, I think in the audience or those who are viewing this session and who are pricing experts will vouch with me that pricing is one of the most complex tasks and a very iterative one. So pricing involves not only understanding our product but also competitors' product, then understanding the various customer behaviors thus coming up by customer segmentation, and also what products can be a substitute or complement to a product that is in scope. So price elasticity in this plays a pivotal role. Price elasticity helps in analyzing price movement. So if I increase or decrease my price, considering various other factors are also going along the way, how would my volume looks like? And once that engine is so we build that engine, once that has been developed, that can fed into the PNL accounts or PNL implications. So to help businesses to devise their pricing strategy in such a way so that they can maximize either the volume or maximize bottom line or revenue accordingly. So we built this pricing engine, and we not only incorporated the price volume movements but also cross price elasticities, so switching metrics and for various competitor prices, and also external factors such as weather, or we also included distribution levels, so as to make an exhaustive engine and also to isolate the impact of price from these other drivers. We used hierarchical mix effect modeling, which not only gives the fixed effect of price on volume, but also the random effect of price between various group levels. So thus helping our clients to take pricing decisions, enabling them to make decisions based on their prices and to forecast how much volume they can expect basis the change. So vehicle scheduling and routing, as I talked about earlier. So this is a case for fleet management. It's a proof of concept, and indeed it's a very intricate and complex solution. And of course, it needed integration of demand and supply. So here our demand sensing platform analyze and predicts per se of a real-time demand at a particular location. On the other hand, we have a capacity or a supply of fleet. So it manages as per the demand available in various areas. It maps those, it understands and intelligently assigns the fleet. And next is the routing allocation. So we use Google Mobility as a preferred, and basis the historical patterns of the particular routes through which a cab can take a person through source to destination. A particular route is assigned which can make the customer reach in a minimum time. On a similar lines, for CPG logistics company, we have done a project where the objective was to minimize cost, so as to assign the orders and also to plan the routes for various trucks. So there the constraints were much different. It was mostly around the order type, whether it was flammable or not, whether it was liquid, whether it was in what was the volume of order. And on the supply side, it was various truck types, whether the truck will go as a half load or whether it will go a full load. So all these mix and these are constraints become important, and then our in-house optimization experts worked on a solution and developed a plan which gives a ready-made solution for all the orders once generated aptly allocate to all the vehicles which have been which are available for allocation. So lastly, a commodity price forecasting tool. So this tool was made in was developed or created keeping in mind raw material procurers. and also the traders in the market. So traders or raw material procurers always look for an inkling or for a price suggestion, so as to make decisions at what time they should buy the commodities, so as to they get advantage or they can hedge their prices going forward. So this tool will help them in two ways. One is for futures prices, which is for a long term duration, and also for spot prices. Here we use machine learning algorithms, and we use drivers for a particular commodity that are relevant for it. For example, for palm oil, we use all the indices which are globally used for palm oil made before X prices, also the subsidiary or ancillary factors as well, which might drive palm oil prices up and down. For traders, we have also given a functionality called Fibonacci calculator, which guides them to see projection, what would be the trend of future prices for a particular commodity, whether it will be an upward trend or downward trend, so as to understand the retracement and extension levels. And of course, if you can see on the first image, we have the news, which is a continuous feed for a particular or for a relevant commodity. It helps them also to gain a qualitative assessment of how the commodity price are moving. Hence, I think with better accuracy and financial advantage in hedging, it will really help our clients to gain benefits out of it. Indeed, there is a POC being worked out. So these are all the cases which I talked about. These are six relevant cases which I think businesses should adopt, not only during this time but also for longer term, to as to unlock the various potential growth for their organizations. Now I would hand it over to Vidit to take you through the AI applications in manufacturing. Over to you, Vidit.
Thank you, Gaurav. So some of the cases that Gaurav already covered, especially from the real-time supply chain planning side, right? So be it demand or supply, they do come under Industry 4.0 applications, but we will like to look at them more from the manufacturing standpoint. Now, when we talk about the manufacturing use cases with some of the discussions that we have with some of our clients, what they generally look for when it comes to Industry 4.0 solutions include probably digital performance management, digital quality management, remote monitoring and control. And one of the major ones of them has to be the predictive maintenance, and also to some extent the smart energy consumption solutions. So we will be covering some of those going forward. So let's begin with talking about an end-to-end IoT implementation that we did for one of our clients. Now, when we talk about an end-to-end IoT implementation, so while the technology, the operational technology, as well as the information technology has existed for a while, for us to do a proper IoT implementation, we have to consider both of them as cogs of the same process wheel, right? Because once we do that, that's only when we are able to get a perfect IoT solution that can help a particular plant team to analyze the data onto a particular dashboard. So that's exactly what we were trying to or achieved here. We first started out by implementing or adding IoT devices onto the shop floor into the different machinery that were existing there. Also adding those to the utilities so that we can also monitor the consumption for all the utilities that are inside that factory. Once this data is available in a consumable format, we move on to a visualization layer wherein we develop a dashboard and provide the plant teams with a view of how their different machines are performing. Now this goes down back to their KPIs, how the different KPIs are performing, be it the OE, be it their yield, or even their energy consumption. Once they are doing this, we also went a step ahead and added a escalation matrix-based alert system on top of it. What that really provides them is it keeps all the different teams inside the particular plant have that entire information as to whosoever is the relevant team for a particular management step or a particular process step. They get that information as and when a particular KPI is being breached. We can go ahead to the next one, Gaurav.
Sure, Vidit.
Yeah. So once you have the data inside your system, you have your IoT-enabled sensors. The biggest application, at least from for manufacturing, that has been touted by multiple businesses, especially in industries that are asset-heavy, it's the predictive maintenance part of it. So this particularly includes taking up the sensor data that could be pressure, temperature, vibration frequency, and others, and adding the system specific internal data on top of it, and then passing these through our machine learning models. So once we pass these through our machine learning models, we are able to analyze and identify what could be a possible cause for a particular failure. So while we are providing that plant team with that information wherein they get a heads up when a particular machinery is going to break down, we also help them do a root cause analysis as to what exactly was causing that machine to break. So this has, of course, reduced the unplanned downtime that is there for those particular plants and those particular machines, which ultimately leads to a lot of cost savings for the plant teams. So that's more from the predictive maintenance side. But if we talk about the predictive quality or digital quality management, it is also something that a lot of our clients look for. Now, while in factories, a lot of processes are in very controlled environments, but what we were trying to achieve here is we were taking the process parameters for those entire process of manufacturing and identify places or process variables which were causing a particular quality issue, right? So how we achieve this is we first ingested our data into our machine learning models, identified the process variables that may be causing or the proper variables that are required for us to be able to achieve this particular step, as in how exactly which process variable is causing what process deviation. When we got to that process deviation, we were able to, using our business know-how, identify which process variable is actually the major cause and which ones can be, avoided from the entire process. Once we had the information available, we again created a visualization layer on top of it, wherein we allowed the plant teams to play around with their process specific variables and generate simulation output, wherein they could check if a particular quality of a batch will be in spec or out of spec. So this eventually led to a reduction in quality issues, which eventually is a cost saving for them because they do not have to process the batch again. Also, once that is achieved, it also, at least from a different industry perspective, it prevents the plant teams and even the company itself to call back batches from the consumers. Finally, another final solution that I want to talk about is our computer vision capabilities. Though this is more of a POC and from a consumer standpoint, wherein we built an application that allowed a particular consumer to click a photo of a particular paint job. Let's say if a paint job has gone wrong, he could upload that particular image onto a server, and our deep learning algorithms will run and find out what exact defect has happened on that particular paint job. Once that defect is identified, it allocates that particular query to a particular customer representative, and based on that, they can take it forward. So this basically led to reduction in manual intervention at all these different levels, wherein the consumer does not have to go directly to a consumer representative and identify what the issue is. Now, talking about computer vision, it's not only related to the paint job or specific industry application, but if you also think about it in the current scenario, another solution that can be is when we eventually go back to offices and even when workers come back onto the shop floor, since social distancing is considered to be a viable solution that we currently have, how well that social distancing norms are being followed is something that computer vision can provide us. While it will be a very intensive application, but it still can be achieved through computer vision. Talking about disruptions and disruptive times, I will hand it back to Gaurav to take us through the Black Swan engine that we have developed.
Thanks, Vidit, for walking us through the AI cases, use cases, or our proven solutions in manufacturing. So far, we have talked about all the critical areas where our advanced analytics solutions have helped clients in delivering key values. But this problem of pandemic, and so this BS engine or the solution is need of the hour. So we will talk about BS engine, A, how it was germinated, B, what factors it uses, and also a couple of use cases which will help our clients to gather a bit more understanding about Black Swan engine. So as we know, pandemic struck us, and as all the businesses went into the crisis mode, and the reality got to come in as soon as in early April, and we got numerous queries from our clients and even from our prospects that how to understand the impact of pandemic, and if we do understand the impact of pandemic, how should I streamline my future business projections, how should I look for longer term and to navigate through this crisis. So hence this Black Swan engine was developed. It is a it this engine creates or generates customized indices for a particular geography to help businesses make decisions and to streamline business projections. The vast economic indicators which have been used here are both macro and micro. It are all the indicators are probably at the customer indicators as well as business side. For example, purchasing manager index or customer sentiment index or various lending indexes have also been used to further assess the environmental factors or the pessimism which have been generated in the market. To add on to the economic indicators, there is a whole lot of verifiable and trustworthy news feeds that are coming through, and also social media trends in the form of Twitter, Flipkart, and Instagram stories. When they are converted or into a quantified using text analytics and using advanced algorithms and are pushed into the engine. The third and critical index, which is very pertinent for a particular geography, is government stringency index. So since lockdown restrictions vary from places to places, from geographies to geographies, hence this index is very relevant to understand the impact or short-term impact or fluctuations which have been caused by government restrictions. So this is an index which have been published by Oxford, which is an amalgamation of 9 to 10 key factors, including whether the industries are closed, whether the lockdown causing schools and colleges, hospitals, so on and so forth. We also looked at Google mobility to understand if mobility has increased, whether it will create demand or will create sales for certain like beauty products or products which would increase due to fuel consumption as well. And also we overlaid all these indices over recent demand to understand what kind of impact it is making during pandemic, and also these indicators how they were playing before pandemic. So just to explain a use case, so we are recently working with a client where we are using these Black Swan indices which this engine is generated at a particular location, and overlaying it on our or plugging in with the demand sensing platform to adjust short-term fluctuations which are caused by this Black Swan event. And if you can see on the top, it's a visual of one of our dashboards where we see for a particular state in United States how is the pandemic look like, what would be the future of pandemic, and accordingly what is our index and how would the sales pan out in those respective areas, along with the important news which is being fed into the system to help businesses to get an understanding, if not if to get an understanding even if they are not able to quantify it, but also it'll help in to understand where the direction of their sales or a particular business projection or business planning is going. For more details, please reach out to us. We can talk at length about this engine. We can talk about the entire architecture and how it will definitely help our clients in streamlining, especially the demand forecasts. So I have talked about various use cases. Vidit also talked about manufacturing cases, and we are being overwhelmed so far by use of AI, and AI being solving each and every business problem in these days. And of course, as per Gartner, over 30% of the CIOs have AI as their first preference in investments. So being so popular, there are certain misconceptions as well, which I will try to debunk. First, it destroys jobs. Definitely not with more digital transformations, with more adoption of new age technologies. There is definitely a need to reinvent our skills, need to relook into newer skills. And as per World Economic Forum, 133 million or millions of jobs will be created in next few years just because of AI. So it's not about job destruction; it's about moving or reinventing ourselves to be able to go in hands with the trajectory of technology. It makes us stupid. We believe that it enables smarter decisions. All the data driven decisions are quantified, verifiable, and it definitely overarches intuition based decisions and helps businesses transforms and help businesses to take proactively and prescribed decisions rather than reactive ones. Destroys privacy. This is a legitimate and I would say a legit concern. Definitely, with the more surveillance going around, there are some violations, but there are some boundaries and laws and regulations which are on their way, which would definitely bring all these AI into a certain purview of law. Will kill us all, as I see various movies, sci-fi movies, and everyone also watching the sci-fi movies where we see that robots killing the earth, overtaking everyone, and overtaking humans. But as far as AI is concerned, it's still in the fiction world. AI on its own, on a lighter note, cannot even make a sandwich. It requires human interventions. It requires human commands to make smarter decisions. So those were the myths which were particularly very generic in nature. Now I will talk about myths which are particularly when a business user gets involved in AI and wants to try a solve or try or even adopt AI as a mode to solve business problems. So so get an AI to solve the problems. Yes, definitely AI will help, and AI is creating an impact. But nonetheless, it's about business expertise, knowing the problem end to end, and then devising a solution rather than going a round way. And I think it was well quoted during the previous session as well. AI helps in accelerating decisions, making fail proof mechanisms. Even if it's fail fast, it helps in churning out MVPs and help businesses take decisions very swiftly. Intelligent machines learn on their own. Definitely, as machine learning, if we go by only a jargon that says that machine is learning, but it's not. It's the data scientists, data practitioners, intelligence enthusiasts, those who are working day in and day out and transforming those business problems and formulating in a way that machine is able to learn it, and devising those solutions and integrating in our businesses, so that businesses are moved and gain new knowledge whenever they learn through the next cycle. AI can work effectively on any or all messy data. Definitely, there over the decades, much importance and much interest have been in unstructured data, but there is a difference between unstructured or a messy data. A messy data does not have a strong foundation. For even a even unstructured data like voice or speech analytics or computer vision, or there are many kinds of unstructured data available. For that also we need a strong data foundation, a strong data architecture, a good amount of history, so that AI can understand the historical patterns, reinforces, can reward or penalize itself, and make decisions for future. AI works like the human brain. There is no doubt that AI is computationally way ahead of human beings. But also, on the other hand, it lacks in other dimensions such as creative intelligence, emotional intelligence, and strategic thinking. And human brain is quite far more complex than any AI machine. Automation and AI are interchangeable while we discuss business problems. Automation, as plain as I put it, is nothing but iterative process or mechanical process which can be replicated through a piece of code, which will help, which helps humans not to manually intervene and to do the things repetitively. On the other way, AI is a mechanism or is a ecosystem which helps businesses, which helps problems to understand historical patterns, current environment, and predict future. AI can be 100% objective. I think there is a saying: if you torture the data enough, it will confess. And so is AI. So, it's up to the hands of data scientists how they formulate a problem, how they use various feature engineering mechanisms or various models. Accordingly, AI will also give answers. So, it's up to a user how they can make AI more objective, more generalized as possible. We have covered most of our session, most of the topics which we intend to cover. Next 2 to 3 slides will talk about exhaustive case studies which we have worked in past couple of years. Uh, so let me go ahead. Supply chain and finance. These use cases are in particular supply chain and finance domain. There are cases with respect to demand planning, demand sensing, which I have already talked about, inventory management, warehouse management, and even in space of logistics and SNOP. We have done a lot of case studies using advanced algorithms in sales, marketing, and e-commerce as well. And we have forayed into digital analytics, where we help our customers in recommendations in digital analytics and how to maximize their sales through e-commerce channels. And with it talked about a few manufacturing use cases, we have many more proven solutions in the space of reliability engineering. I would request all the viewers, in case they are interested in any of the use cases, we will send across the deck. Please reach out to us. We can have in-depth discussion about the use cases. And also, if you have any business problems which you have seen through our discussion, or you can see through these caselets, we are happy to discuss. So with that, I'll open the house for Q&A. Vidit and I will take in case there are any questions.
Yeah, Gaurav. So there are a couple of questions on the feed. The first one being,
Hello, am I audible?
yeah, am I audible, Gaurav?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a question around what are the various drivers you have used for demand sensing for CPG industry?
Guys, did we lose you?
I am here. I think Gaurav dropped off.
Okay, let's take
some internet issue.
take the questions. I'll take the questions with you. No issues.
Yeah. So the first question that we see here is, what are the various drivers you have used for demand sensing for CPG industry?
Okay, there are lots of drivers, and drivers kind of that keep changing with the nature of business or nature of nature of SKUs or brands that are being for which demand study is being done. So for a typical typical CPG SKU, the typical demand drivers are of course past demand, past actual demand, then then the relevant indicators, the weather patterns, fluctuations in them, and and then their proxy online and other online and offline proxies. The indicators vary with the business. Just no, I mean, and the same way, while a set of indicators can work for one specific commodity or one specific category, but they'll fall flat for the. Okay, so.
Yep. Okay. There is another question around.
So
Yes.
I see another question. Said I'll just narrate the question for you. So this
right.
is so there. Ravi is asking if our solutions or platforms, has business users as its target audience, or there is a technical capability required to use those products. So DAO-Sense or demand sensing platform.
Okay, so
Can a data science novice use it, or do you need some data science, data analytics readiness to be able to use those platforms?
Okay, I think I got the question. Very good question. So no, you don't need to be data science experts to be able to take advantage of these tools. Okay, so but having said that, if you have citizen data scientists in your organization, or if you're pally with them, it'll be, I mean, you'll find it a lot more intuitive, and you'll see kind of begin to see possibilities. So no, the question, it's a tool anyone can use because all the heavy duty work is being done in the back end. And so depending on clients, we also sometimes expose a view on the model diagnostics. Okay, so what are the key drivers in the model? What are the feature engineers? What are the different feature engineers? And what is the kind of what is the percentage impact on, or percentage variance impacted on the dependent variable? Okay, so we do that, but as again, no. But if this what you see kind of incites you into induces you into taking a course on data science, that's good. I think that loophole. Yes.
Okay.
Question?
Yes, there is another question that is a bit of an open question to throw more light on the IoT implementation project.
All right. So it was an end-to-end IoT implementation project for a global hot beverages major with plants in India. There were quite a few workstations in this plant, in this tea manufacturing plant that had to be sensor enabled, and then all the infrastructure had to be put in place. We did that. Not only did we do that, we also set in process the infrastructure, the cloud and other infrastructure required to to kind of track what happens in these workstations minute by minute, and make them amenable over dashboards which are again which again sit on the clouds. So, and not only that, we also make these dashboards amenable on handheld devices. And so there, as of now, I think we have covered the entire plant, and we are preparing for the next stage. That is taking another. Building infrastructure, IoT infrastructure for another plant. So yeah, and the next phase, while that is about kind of generating hindsights real time and taking action, enabling action taking. The next logical step would be predictive maintenance. Now, see, all these sensors that they are generating data by several milliseconds, and all of this data is getting kind of stored in some backend. So as and when the time is ripe, we'll deep dive into this data and build predictive maintenance models, which will essentially tell us when a particular machine is likely to fail. And if it's likely to fail, let's say 30 days from now, can I do a line switch, or can I kind of cut down the load on that machine so that it can be put on maintenance, or it can be maintained while it's kind of while also it's contributing to the throughput. So yeah, so that was. I hope that answered your question.
Hey Sid, apologies everyone. Actually, I got some issue with my internet, so I'm back. Sorry about that.
No problem, Gaurav. I mean, I was covering up for you.
Sure. Thanks.
Sid was answering all the questions on your behalf, Gaurav.
Okay.
You have to look at the recording later and say whether he answered them right or wrong.
Okay. So any other question, Archie? I mean, because any other question, or are we good?
Let me browse through. I think no, the rest are from the previous ones. No, those were the three questions, Sid, from.
Okay. Thank you. I hope I answered your questions.
I hope Sid, you didn't think that was an opportune moment for me to drop off.
You never know, Gaurav. So,
No.
I've come to expect anything and everything from you.
No, it was really an internet glitch.
I know. Just kidding.
Yes.
Okay, so but how are we doing on time, Ajay? I think we still have about 6 minutes left.
That's right. Correct. Yep, we have.
Okay, so we can take a few more questions if there are any. Or else I hand it over to Archie to make some closing remarks.
Sure, Sid. So
okay, Archie, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for handing it over to me. It was again, it was the first of its kind for me, at least in terms of experience, attending any virtual conference for that matter. And I think it was worth the experience. I actually came to office today to make sure I have uninterrupted view of this, and so there's nothing else to distract me. And it is very, very satisfying that it was also held by DAO-centric people, all my colleagues behind this. I just cannot imagine how much background work had to go on, for everybody to pull this thing together. And, especially getting all the presentations, being on time, making sure there are no glitches from a tool perspective. So again, thanks for organizing this first time and doing it so well the first time. The organizing team, I have to name a few, and pardon me if I forget to put the names of all of the people, because I'm trying to gather and understand who all worked behind the scenes. So Antra, Nischay, Archit, Gaurav, Vidit, and of course Abhijit for putting the infra together. Thanks to all of you. I think this was very, very, very well put together. Of course, we cannot finish this without thanking all our guests.
We have observed is that they are not getting the external IP and the IP address.
Yeah, we are not getting the external IP and the IP address. I don't know who asked that question. Sorry, you might want to be on mute. We are not getting your IP addresses and external IPs. So don't worry, we are not trying to monitor you. But thanks to the external speakers also who attended, who gave their individual sessions. I think if I get, Mr. Amandeep Singh, I think that was the GIS related presentation, and also Dr. Sandeep and Mr. Bivas. Our panelists, obviously, I don't know if Somnath and Balaji are still there. Very, very respected customers of ours as well. And our internal panelist, Sid and Ashok, thanks for participation, and Nilakshi for coordinating the panel discussion. Again, thank you guys, and thanks everybody for attending. I am not able to see the entire attendee list, but a lot of questions came in, which seemed at least that the participation was very, very active, even from the audience, despite this being a virtual conference where we are not able to see each other. Again, thank you. Extremely engaging sessions. I have never been so engaged for so long in analytics related topics. So this was extremely engaging, guys. Thank you from my side. So yeah, Sid or Nischay, back to you.
Thank you, Archie. Thank you, Virji, for your words of encouragement. So we have another day lined up for you for everyone. So please do come in large numbers, and I think you'll find it interesting. There'll be a lot of takeaways. And at tomorrow's sessions would be kind of more techno-functional in nature, but that does not mean that others who are the folks who are non-technical cannot attend. There'll be stuff for them as well. Okay, so tomorrow, I mean, we'll have a couple of master classes in demand forecasting and in handling imbalanced class problems, and then there will be a very, very interesting session towards the end on optimization in real life supply chain problems. So please do come in large numbers, and thank you very much for your participation. And and we are encouraged, and I think this will set the template for hosting more such events in the future, in the near future, or in the near future. And I think this was just one of its kind analytics talks. So going forward, you will hear a lot more of DAO-centric. We have other divisions which are kind of raring to showcase their achievements. We have supply chain, we have IT and finance, and we have a whole lot of we have sales and marketing. I mean, you'll get to see a lot of them as well. So thank you very much for your participation. Really appreciate your presence. And thank you for taking the time out from your busy schedules, and and being with us. And a big shout out once again to the organizers, Nishchay, Ajay, Antra, you guys, Archit, you guys rock. Way to go. Thank you.